Hi, this is Mesha with Stay Home and Come With Me, and this is an Every Life is a Story event. I can't breathe. I'm so excited. Whenever she came into the broadcast studio, I told her, I said, you do know when I grow up, I want to be Elizabeth Kipp. And she is so many things. I'm not going to try to explain them because this is her story. I'm just going to turn it over and let her tell you. Ladies and gentlemen, Elizabeth Kipp.
Thank you so much, Misha. It's my honor to be here. Really, I thought today I'd talk about the power of story, and I'll weave my story into it and tell you how I saw my story, how it changed, what my new story was, so that in the end, you can do this for yourself. Yeah. So, so this is really the power of story. The nature of this, and I'm going to read a little bit, and then I'll wing it when I'm done. The nature of the story we tell ourselves about our pain experience can make a difference in our ability to heal. The power of story can influence chronic pain and our ability to heal. Take that in. Hear me out. I'm not saying that the story is the cause of the pain. And I'm not saying we don't need to go below the level of story if we are to heal the pain. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with our story of pain. I am saying that the nature of the story that we tell ourselves about our pain experience can make a difference in our ability to heal it. I am saying that we need to understand that whatever our pain story is, it's only part of the story, and the story changes. Captivity is a mentality. We can be held captive by our story of pain. It's a thing we can carry. I sure carried it with me. It's hard to understand how bewildering the concept of freedom is when you have been a prisoner for so long. It's hard to understand how hard it is to grasp that you even have a choice, that you can act. It's hard to understand how inconceivable the sun is when you've been living in darkness for years. Herein lies the crux of the matter for those of us who are more caught in the grip of chronic pain. We must be aware that whatever our story is in the moment is not necessarily a life sentence. We must open ourselves, imagine what may seem utterly impossible at the time. Look at the courage and the extraordinary force it takes to break out of the inertia of being such a prisoner for so long, and the action one must take to change that momentum, the course of one's trajectory, from the unimaginable to the exquisite knowing of real freedom. It's far too easy for those of us who are in the grip of chronic pain to get so lost in the pain that we lose sight of the possibility that the pain can change. We're so acclimated to feeling pain all the time, we use phrases like, the pain is always here, or it feels endless. Do you realize the commitment we make to our situation, our story, when we bring powerful words like always and endless into the picture? We've declared it's like this now and it will always be like this. That is a powerful statement to make to the universe. Always means past, present, and future. Endless means forever. When we use words like these, they have power and we lock ourselves into the frequency of their meaning. How can you ever expect to find your way out of chronic pain when you do not open yourself to the possibility of change and of healing? As people with chronic pain, we need to realize and be open to the idea that our story evolves, just like everything else in life. We need to understand that whatever our story is now, it can and indeed will shift and transform into a newer version of the current one. One could say that our current story is a chapter in a book of stories we have yet to live. My own experience with my story of chronic pain as a vehicle for my eventual healing is a case in point. I had an injury in 1968 at the age of 14, followed by years of pain, including several corrective surgeries. Whereas the doctors predicted that the surgery would relieve the pain, my experience was that the pain increased. Here's how my story went at the time. I did anything I could that helped me divert, distract, avoid, numb, push through, or deny, whatever it took not to feel the moment I was experiencing. I had such difficulty accepting I had such difficulty accepting life the way I perceived it. I felt shame on many levels. I felt powerless over the physical and emotional pain I felt. I felt spiritual pain because I believed that on some level my higher power was punishing me, even though I was doing the best I could to cope with my circumstances. I did not feel seen nor heard, and certainly not valued for who I truly was, and I sure didn't feel worthy. Why would I want to even participate in such a life? I escaped the best I could. In many ways, I could not escape. I did not see that ultimately I had the key to my own prison. Yes, you can move through the suffering of chronic pain, despite what you're telling yourself. I had to change what I was saying to myself. I was telling myself that this was the only way I knew how to live with chronic pain. At the time, it was the only way everyone around me knew how to deal with it as well. Over time, I realized that something had to shift. I challenged myself to change my current story. When I did this, I hit such a wall. I was done with my old story, with my perspective and my way of thinking. I made this choice and committed to finding an alternative. In many ways, it seemed easier to continue with the medication, the numbing, but that is a trick of the mind. To continue walking the same path of what isn't working to heal chronic pain is to be caught in the chaotic battle in the mind field. And that would be the definition of insanity, doing the same thing, expecting a different result. I asked myself, how can I find a life outside or beyond a life of suffering while taking medication to cope? That question was the foundation of a new beginning of such a cascade of events that charted the course straight out of chronic pain for me. I was prescribed opiate and benzodiazepine medication for years as the doctor's solution to dealing with my chronic pain. In the end, I discovered that these drugs themselves were contributing to my pain. I took prescription medications in 1982 under the orders of doctors who assured me that the only way to treat the pain was through taking drugs. 2 years into taking opiates and benzos, trying to dim my pain, a doctor told me, you will be in an intensity level of 7 out of 10 pain, 24 hours a day for the rest of your life. You have to take these medications. This doctor convincingly handed me a life sentence and never looked back. And just note, he assumed I wouldn't heal. That was his assumption. He never asked, why isn't Elizabeth healing? He just assumed I wouldn't. And as you can imagine, I was crushed by that prognosis. I had a 2-year-old baby. I was in a new marriage. I had charted a career path in environmental studies, and suddenly I felt like my whole life as I know it was over. I began to cry uncontrollably and didn't stop crying for a couple of weeks. What kind of mother would I ever be to my son? How would I ever be an adequate wife to my husband? And what about all those years I invested in study at the university to become skilled in my field? Life took on a strange, scary, and hopeless mood. I felt lost in the pitch black of a small closet with no key, and I couldn't find a door to put a key in, even if I had one. I was lost in this dark closet. I did have a knowing inside of me, graced by my higher power, that there was a light somewhere. I just had to keep looking to find it. Where is the light? Please help me find it. How my story changed. So that was my story, and this is how it changed. After 2 weeks, I finally discovered the light. It came in the form of an epiphany, and here is where my story began to evolve. I realized that my doctor wasn't a fortune teller, and that he had made an error. First, he made an error in assuming I wouldn't heal. Second, he made an error that saying that I would be a certain way. I will be a certain way. He gave me a pronouncement. That's not the way science operates, and he's operating in this scientific paradigm. First of all, scientific paradigms shift. So we used to think the Earth was flat, and now we know it's round, and so that's an example of a paradigm shifting. And also, he forgot that in science, it's not hard facts; it's all probabilities. So a more accurate thing for him to have said would have been, it's probable that you'll be in pain, not you will. So he didn't leave any room for hope. And here's why this is important. We live in the all that is, right? Science lives in the part that it can measure, describe, and observe. But where do we heal? We heal here in the science world, and we heal in the all that is. So healing happens everywhere beyond just what science can measure, describe, and observe. So I realized I lived in a much larger space than my doctor was referencing, and the possibilities were far vaster than he realized. When I envisioned this, I suddenly felt free from the doctor's sentence of pain and medication. I still felt pain, but from that moment on, I moved out of the story of feeling victimized and began a new chapter of my story feeling empowered. I was part of the power of the universe. I had a strong innate knowing that there was a way out of pain and medication. I only had to find my way through, and I felt strongly that I would be led and guided. Here's another change I made to my story. I decided to take 80% of the responsibility for my healing between myself and God, and give the entire rest of the medical community the other 20%. So a doctor, nurses, alternatives, all those, they can stitch up a wound or set a bone, but they can't tell the body how to heal. Only the body knows how to do that, and the innate intelligence that lives in it. So the healthcare community helps us set up conditions to heal, and gives us orders to things that we need to do to take care of ourselves, to enable these optimal conditions. And then it's up to us to follow those orders and to really then get out of the way and let the body heal. So understanding the power structure was another huge change in my story. Finally, I saw, I was still taking medication. Finally, I saw that the medications were a huge block to just living my life. And I had to be willing to let go of the medication completely. And I did. I went into a pain management program and at a treatment center where I detoxed off my medication. And what was interesting was I met a doctor there who operated on a completely different paradigm. Instead of saying you will be in level 7 out of 7 out of 10 pain for the rest of your life, he said, your body wants to heal. You don't have to suffer. It was complete, like I said, science paradigm shifted. This was a paradigm shift for me. I'd never heard this before. He said, would you go to any lengths to conquer your pain? And my answer was yes, but I was surprised at the question. I thought to myself, what has this man got in store for me? I felt threatened and challenged in a completely new way. And I remember saying to myself, how can it even be possible to conquer pain? And you mean it could be possible to conquer this pain? He just really took my mind and put it in so many different perspectives. So it was a very important question, and one I've adopted as I work with others afflicted with chronic pain. So my job in this program was to show up and do whatever was asked of me. Some of the things I was asked to do were scary, but I did it anyway. And I was able to release the medications and then heal a bunch of the pain that was underneath all that chronic pain that I was carrying. I didn't realize at the time until I got this program that most of what I was carrying was two things. One, the medication itself was causing pain. And the other thing was I had untreated trauma from about like age 15 back that hadn't ever been treated from like when I was born. I had a really traumatic birth experience. From when I was born to when I was 15, I had another hugely traumatic event, and there were a whole bunch of them in the middle. And I had no treatment for those. And this doctor helped treat that trauma, that unresolved trauma. So I came up with a new story, and you can do this too. How we can heal from chronic pain. He told me a story that was new and different from all the other ones that doctors did. I was surprised but incredibly relieved to even consider this new possibility. His methods are simple, swift, powerful, and did not require that I take any medication. There was truly a way to write a new chapter in life where I could live beyond the suffering of chronic pain and addiction. My story evolved. I finally found a key to unlocking the door to the prison I found myself in. I no longer looked away from all that was inside of me that I had tried to ignore, deny, repress, distract, or numb. I had to learn to surrender all that was living inside me. This was a new chapter in my life I could never have imagined earlier. By giving up our current story and being willing and open to discovering and writing a new one, a new chapter in our life, we seize the potential for and open to the miracle of healing. Now, I want to talk to you about how story acts as a stage for our life. There's 4 different kinds of stories that I'll talk to you about. First one is stories we tell over and over again. These are stories that we get to tell, that we tell to get validation for our point of view. One example for me, a classic one for women, is the story of pregnancy and childbirth. In the year I gave birth to my son, I told this story to as many women that would listen to me. I look back on that and see that I was looking to substantiate my experience, to help me realize that my experience wasn't completely bizarre, and therefore I wasn't not losing my mind, and to compare notes and receive some support in this life-changing adventure. As I told my story, women would nod their head in recognition and extend their compassion. I, in turn, expanded my compassion to them. This was where the healing lay. Note, when we get trapped in these stories we tell repeatedly, we can get trapped in these. We can get hooked by our addictive behavior of turning away from healing the deeper feelings, feeding the stories. Every time we tell the stories, we spin at the level of story, and in this addictive spinning behavior, we're like in a traffic circle and cannot find our way out of it. So long as we distract ourselves with our story, we miss the off-ramp to where the feelings about the story are, and that's where the healing lies. Second one is stories that show us the way to healing. These stories point the way to what is driving the story from within us. For example, I had a story of how I was never enough. Never good enough, never finished with anything, never brought enough to the table, even when I tried my hardest. I allowed myself to feel the sensations that arose in me when I thought about not being enough. It was amazing to me how intense the energy unlocked inside of me when I allowed myself to release it. As I did, I had a realization, as I'd been told as a child, that I could always do more, work harder, get better grades. My best was not accepted as good enough. No wonder I had an unconscious program running in me saying I was never enough. I was able to gain clarity here. I was able to find compassion and forgiveness for everyone, including myself in this situation. And so I learned to heal by the power of that story. Third kind, stories that we cannot find the courage to speak. These stories are ones that are alive and well within us, but we have judged them as too dangerous to tell. Their power over us is greater than our courage to tell them. Hence, until we break out of their spell, they will haunt us and drive our behavior unconsciously. A story in which we feel riddled with shame and dare not or cannot reveal to anyone for fear of rejection is an example of such a powerful narrative. Once we're able to bring this story to the light of day and share it with another person, then we have a direct route to healing the feelings that sit below the story. Here again, our addictions can trip us up from our healing. We find every which way to dodge the issue of not having the courage to own our voice. In our avoidance, we prolong the problem, the suffering. Here, our addictions keep us trapped in our shame and concurrent fear. The fourth category here are stories that we do not have access to because we have denied that they are even there. We cannot tell some stories because our unconscious has buried them deeply inside our memory banks. An example of such a story is when I experienced so much trauma that I was in total disbelief of what happened. Furthermore, my family members, skilled at sweeping unpleasantries under the proverbial rug, never mentioned the story either. They ignored it or distracted themselves away from it. I ended up not believing my own senses about what happened, not only because I was horrified by it, but because everyone around me denied it, and because I had no idea how to process it any other way. Here is a beautiful example of how the unconscious mind can protect us. That terrifying memory stayed buried inside of me until I finally found someone capable of showing me how to face it, process it, and let it go in a healthy way. So, story can guide us to the root of what's driving the story in the first place. But we must be able to access the story in the first place to get to the root of the matter. Our ability to process the deeper meanings underlying our stories is a function of our being able to fully access our story and do the work we can, so to allow the unconscious to release its hold on them. My wish for you. Our beliefs are limitations that keep us confined and addicted to how we think things should be, to what we think reality should look like. Our fears are real, yet they live from this place of quarantine. We have decided what is possible and what is not. We have decided how the whole world will play itself out. This is how we create our reality. We have decided that the impossible is, for us, just that, impossible. Literally. How can we create from such a restricted place? How can we heal from a place such as this? We have put out the vibration that says, I can go this far, but no further. I can do this, but never that. I can heal from this, but not from that. When we do not know what the outcome of our healing will be, for we are not God, of course, yet when we clamp down on and cling to our beliefs and our limitations, aren't we really telling God how it's supposed to be? Aren't we making a proclamation that our healing power can only go so far and no farther? If we decide that we are doomed, we have chosen our position and thereby doom ourselves. Belief, travesty of the mind, if we allow it. If we can just step for one moment beyond this imprisonment, we have ventured into a larger world, a world of infinite possibility. We have stepped into the impossible. And who knows what will happen? Who knows what healing will ensue? We look to other people and what they accomplish as a measure of what is possible for us. Because we're so stuck on our own limitations, we automatically see the limitations of others. Such a place is completely inadequate for us to bloom into ourselves. How can the impossible ever transmute into the possible if we are coming into the if we were coming from the captivity of such a constrained thinking? Take matters into your own hands. Allow yourself to rise into yourself. Reach beyond the programming and touch the stars. For as surely they are out there, they are within you, just awaiting recognition. You are ultimately an infinite being, as we all are. Why is it so difficult to believe this? If we are to expand into our full potential, it is incumbent on us to then expand beyond the walls of our limitation into the infinite nature of who we truly are. Trust. Believe that you can heal. Reach beyond your beliefs into surrendering yourself beyond the power of the mind. Surrender to your experience. Allow all of it and be its witness. Whatever your story was, clear the slate. Let the space of pure presence work its power for you, for it works in a land that writes its own story in every moment. It writes the story of creation. It writes the story of the impossible becoming possible. And that's my story.
Wow. Now everybody knows why I want to grow up to be Elizabeth Kipp. People who do know me are like, I think maybe you all are like related or something, because we think very much alike. Although you think, let's say, in a more sophisticated version of me. Wow. So many things you said, I just could talk forever on them. Basically, you determined your life was your story, and you were going to shift it, which is what every life is a story about is about. And I came to that conclusion that this was necessary because of my time in my life of chronic pain. Because I saw so many trapped in their life of chronic pain. And I couldn't get across that we had to shift from that. So I wanted to start sharing other people's lives outside of the chronic pain world to try to open their eyes to the potentiality, and that everyone had a story, and some of them as difficult as ours, and yet they persevered. And so that's what you did. You shifted yourself, and you decided that the doctor was wrong. And in the chronic pain community, I can remember, and probably about the time you were doing this, people didn't do that. We do it now, thank goodness. But that was a brave thing to do. You did two hugely brave things. You decided, my story, my life, I'm writing it my way. And the doctor who's been writing my story, he ain't writing it right.
Well, I understood because I had a science background.
Right.
I understood. It was so beautiful. You know, I really was upset for 2 weeks. I cried for 2 weeks. I couldn't stop.
Sure.
It was wild. But I kept searching, and I knew something was wrong. And it just takes me a minute. I'm not really fast on my feet. I've always been. I learn. I just take longer. You know, I was born a little dyslexic, and they didn't even know what that was when I was born. So it was like,
Right.
you know, they expected me to do well, so I did. It just was hard, right? Just took me a while. So it's always taken me a while to kind of put 2 and 2 together when I have a problem. But I get to the solution, and the solution was, oh, he's forgotten his basic science. Yeah, he made an
Yes.
error. He made a couple of errors.
Well, and not only did you establish that your doctor was wrong, but you did it in a way that could continue communication. Because so often when we decide that someone is wrong and it's affecting our lives that way, we do it in a way that cuts off communication. But you had a very an open way of doing it. You identified in a scientific way, in a very balanced way, a way that would open communication instead of shutting it down. You didn't go in like me, a bear in a china shop, and say, you are wrong. You went in with a very well thought out, this is the issue. Or at least in your mind it was. I don't know if you approached the doctor with it, but in your own mind, you had it very well balanced out.
Well, yes, and the the thing I was thinking about was how many other patients are having this problem with this guy. And it wasn't just this doctor, by the way. There were lots of, because a lot of doctors, certainly back then, I don't know so much about now, but I think it's still kind of a problem. They're not taught about chronic pain in medical school, so they really don't know what to do with it. And I was just really lucky to find Dr. Peter Prescott, because he's a chronic pain specialist. At the end there, he was my doctor. But all these other doctors had the same approach. They had the same assumption: you can't heal. And again, an error.
Right.
But I would go in. I tried the best I could to speak at their level, and which is kind of hard to do because there's a lot of ego involved. The patient gets mad, and then the doctor's reactive, and you don't want that to happen. You want a collaborative, right, relationship. And so it takes on our part, on my part as a patient, it took a lot of grace. I really felt like I had a lot of grace holding me, because I had doctors that were just flat out mean. Oh, it's in your head. And my answer to it's in your head is, yes, that's where pain is processed in the brain.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then they didn't have a comeback to that. But I didn't put them down. I just went, you're right, because this, right? And then they wouldn't, because you could hear that and think they're telling you you're crazy.
That's what I would have heard. Even with my education, I could not have come back with that.
It's just inaccurate, because that's where pain is processed in the brain.
Yes. So many people don't have the education to come back with that.
Yeah, I was lucky.
You were. And that's one of the things I've always tried to teach is how to communicate with your physicians. But if you can't, find one you can.
That's right.
Because you've got to be able to, if not, because it's got to be a collaborative effort. And I loved what you said. First of all, I identified you did gravitate to hope, but you balanced that. You kept the science, but that's because you have a science background. So what you did, you came into balance. You didn't leave the science out, but in the end, you trusted the universe or God and yourself, because you said, I had this innate knowing. Innately, you knew. But immediately you said God right after that, in the universe. And so you put 80% on you and God.
That's right.
And you still left science in it, 20%.
That's right.
So you kept all of it, which is what we have to do. We can't throw science out. We can't throw ourselves out. And we can't throw the divine out. You kept all three to rewrite your story and overcome your deal, your addiction, your situation. And that is so powerful.
I had a lot of help too. A lot of help, I remember my son coming home from California to visit one time, and he's in a personal transformation. He does trauma work now, but at that time he was in personal transformation work. And he had this enter the heart process, and he was just dreaming it up. And he said, "Can I try this on you?" And I said, "Great." And sure thing. And he got me really in touch with my heart. It was a beautiful process. He got me really in touch with my heart. And I was like, and I heard my heart say, I didn't know what it was, but I heard my heart say, there's a way out of this medication madness for you.
Wow.
And that's the direction you need to go, which was very scary. It was scary to be on the drugs, and it was scary to get off them. So it was just not a very pleasant place to be, which everybody in active addiction knows at the end, before they go, before they go into recovery, they know what that is. That's this, you're backed up against a wall and you can't get out. You're in a corner and you don't even know how to get out, right? But I had this, it was a very intense process with the enter the heart thing that Maston did. And it was so big and it had such a big effect on my heart. I was like, I have to go in this direction. This is the direction. And so I just put the call out to all my friends, including my son, that I have to get off this. My own doctor couldn't get me off the medication without putting me in a coma. And he'd never done that before. That was his answer. We'll put you in a coma.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, well, how many times have you done that with other patients? Never. I'm like, dude, I am not going to be your guinea pig. I'm going to find somebody else to help me with this, and Dr. Peter taken thousands of people off this stuff, but I didn't know anything about him.
Sure.
But by having the courage, to say, Uncle, I don't know which way to go, but I know I can't stay here. Please lead me into this, because I all I see is darkness out there. I can't find the light, and I know it's there somewhere. That was huge for me. That was huge for me. And if I hadn't taken that, I probably, I wouldn't be here. I'd still be hurting, or I'd be dead, because those medicines were killing me. I mean, I'm not trying to sound dramatic. I'm telling you for real. Oh,
yes, I understand that. Yeah.
I mean, I
don't think you're being dramatic.
I was on fentanyl for 15 years. So, that's a serious drug. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. In my own case, what's brought me to the meditation and place I'm at is the medications have put me in third stage renal disease. So I can't take any of them anymore.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
And the doctors didn't realize it was happening, apparently. So it was like, bam, one day, another doctor's like, we're not giving you this anymore. We're not giving you any of that. And I'd questioned myself. I'd been questioning the labs and been told, oh no, it's fine. It's fine. And I'm like, you sure? And
then it wasn't.
And then the next doctor was like, no, it's not fine. And so, so I know what you're saying. It's not drama. It's truth. And I consistently took like half of the medication I could take. So yes, being on the medications 15 years, that's about how long I was on mine. And so that's what would happen to us for sure. You're not being dramatic.
Yeah, I was on medication for 31 years, but I was on that particular one, that fentanyl and Ativan for 15. So, and I had the first stage of kidney disease, and it took about, when I finally got into recovery, and it took about, I'm just trying to think, it took about 5 years to get my kidneys back to, they're normal now. They're normal.
Great.
But it was quite a journey. I had to go to a functional doctor and get on supplements, and I had to, I've got to make sure to drink my water, and there's a whole protocol. Yeah. Right. Yeah. it's a whole, it's a very, a new way to live. We learn a new way to live.
Yeah, my refrigerator it's just water.
I had soup too. I'll have soup for dinner, you know.
Yeah. Soup, my cabinet, soup. So, but definitely, when I listen to the things you say, then you went into how the different types of stories, the 4 types of stories, and I listened to those, and you talked about we get addictive to the spinning behavior of a story, the story we tell. And I'm listening to you and I'm like, oh my God, ouch, 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 ouch. Because we think that we're healing from something. And we really need to get on the off ramp. And we don't realize, or we think, or we're jumping on and off the off ramp. We're on it part of the time and then we're getting off of it. And your explanation of it was beautiful. So if you could talk a little more about that type and the healing of it, that would be great.
Well, that's a great question. That is, we need validation in that story. We're kind of going for validation, but that's really the ego that's gone run amok a bit. It really reveals our own insecurities. And what I do now, I didn't get into it in the lecture, but I'll say it now. What I do now to heal that story, and any story really, but this particular kind, because it's so addictive, is I do this process called Ancestral Clearing, which helps us get below the level of story to what's really the root of the story. And some of this stuff, maybe it's any of this stuff comes from the past. Some of the stuff comes from the lineage. And I'll give you a really good example of story that comes from the lineage. Women and worry. How many mothers and grandmothers and great-grandmothers and aunts and all that do you know that have worry energy? And we have mirror neurons. Yeah. We have mirror neurons. Humans have mirror neurons. We learn from each other. It's unconscious. We pick it up, and we come in with it, right? So we come in with this frequency, and then we bring it on ourselves, and we just keep repeating that. Ancestral Clearing can help stop that. Just boom. So it's a very powerful. I don't remember if we did an Ancestral Clearing for you. I don't remember. I do.
No, but we sure need to.
Yeah. So yes,
we need to take the family tree and burn most of it down.
Yeah, shake it up. You know, we come into this world with the gifts and the burdens of our ancestors, and so that unresolved trauma gets passed from one generation to another. And I'll tell you, the most recent study that I read was a guy who was ran a mouse. He had this experiment. He had this lab full of mice, and they had a beautiful, play place, and they were all playing. And they'd only known this space because they were born there. They're playing one day. He puts a cat hair right down in the middle of them, and they all scatter. Now, how does that work? Because they'd never met a cat. Yeah, that's an example of imprints that carry from one generation to another in terms of, big charge in the body. Big fears, fear from. Now, I never was afraid of snakes until somebody taught me how to be afraid of. I just didn't come in with that. I just didn't. I saw a snake and thought, oh my God, that's a beautiful creature. That's where and they had to tell me, oh, that's a copperhead. That'll bite you. That might hurt you. If you get too close to that. I'm like, oh, right. So that's just, the way I came in. But spiders, that's a whole nother level. I've been dealing with the spider phobia on one level or another, one layer or another of it my whole life. I just got rid of another huge layer about 2 years ago. I've made peace with the spiders 3 times in my life. So I came in with a certain phobia, and I've done some work around it. Some of the stuff in Ancestral Clearing, you can, it'll drop right away, and other things come off in a layer at a time. So anyway.
Well, and I truly believe that I need to work on this because I know for a fact that there are things that I have worked on and dealt with, but then I will find I move into new situations and I'm doing them again, and it's not, I don't even realize it. It's not like a pattern. It's because I'm aware of patterns. So it's not that. It's more innate. It's like you were saying about worry, because worry isn't so much of a pattern as it is, it's just in us.
Yeah.
And so it's that sort of thing.
That's right.
And
it's a frequency, it's energy.
Right. And I recognized it today with how I communicate with certain people. And I heard it with how the person was saying back to me, you don't have to assume this or feel this. And I'm like, well, why do I? And then it hit me. This is something that is in me.
Yeah, you've had it forever. You've noticed you've always had it. Yeah.
Yes,
I get it.
because I can cognitively, I know not to do this. And when I'm thinking, I don't. But there's something in me that just has it. It's just there.
Yeah, it's a default.
Yes. And not just from a simple thing as, and I know patterns aren't simple, but it's deeper than that, you know. So, and not that patterns aren't deep, but it's definitely this.
Yeah,
yes.
We're like, over 99% unconscious. We run, so, what the little bit that we can get access to, let's work with it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
You also talked about no courage to speak or to use our own voice. That is huge.
Oh, yeah.
So many of us, we don't. And that is so sad, because our life is to be the expression of our own voice, to be the expression of us. And who are we not to trust the divine, God? And God gave us our voice, our will to create our lives. But we don't think of it that way. We kind of think of it the opposite. And we're like, I shouldn't speak. And we get wrapped up in that. And that is the opposite of how we should be.
Well, yeah, and in chronic pain, we get there's such a negative bias that we get so filled up with low self-esteem and guilt and even shame, and the more, and that's this negative spiral that goes, so the more that feeds on itself, I've noticed this with chronic pain patients, because I sat with thousands of them, and I was one, right?
Right.
We do one of two things. We either complain all the time, or we don't say a word. There's not much in between. There's, so there's lots of complaining, or there's not anything. And so we're holding, right? And both of those are toxic. So, and I feel, because I've seen so much of it, it's the thing we have in common, right? I feel it's because we just don't know how to use our voice appropriately. We just don't know how, because we're so burdened with negativity. Like, I don't even have a right to speak because I'm so messed up, that kind of thing.
Right.
But plus, we're women, you and I are women, and women have a more, men aren't supposed to show their feelings. So that's their issue. Women are put down because they have too many. Right?
There you go. Yeah. And we use too many words. So, and it's a huge topic. which we wouldn't have time to get into here, but one theory I have on that too is how we've been chronically ungrounded, not centered. And so we are extremes, either silent or out of control with what we're saying,
good point.
but not balanced on it. So that's one theory I have on that too. Then another thing you said was, and I love this one, the stories that are buried so deeply, we don't even know about them.
Right.
And those are tragic, but true.
Well, that's why I do yoga. Yoga is very helpful at helping us become aware. It's called yoga of awareness. So it helps us become more aware. And so I can see myself doing stuff now. I may be acting in a kind of an unconscious way, but because of the practice of the meditation, the yoga, all stuff, which I teach now, by the way, too, but I do it because I can see myself doing it. So I'm the watcher watching myself, and I'm like, oh, look what you're doing, right? So that's very helpful because it's making the unconscious conscious.
I reread that chapter in your book today, and that's the chapter I want to talk about next week.
Oh, good. Okay. Cool.
All about the breath. I want to talk about that.
Awesome.
But absolutely, whenever we become the observer and we're still, and then we can see what we couldn't see, definitely very beautiful place to get to, and a difficult place to get to. And you talked about it wonderfully in your book.
Thanks. I'll just add this one little bit. This is another thing we have in common, us people in chronic pain, fibromyalgia, whatever it is, Chronic pain, any pain that's felt, physical, emotional, spiritual, doesn't matter. Body can't tell the difference. It's all chronic. Chronic pain, any pain that's felt 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more is chronic. This is what we do. We are like Olympic level athletes, gold medalists at control. We try and control, right? And I saw myself doing this. And so I'm sharing with you guys because I felt it was so profound. So when I decide what the playing field is going to look like, how my life is going to be, right? Who the players are going to be, right? And what the rules of the game are going to be. Where is there any room there for higher power to come in and act on my behalf? Because I've set the conditions. This is how it's going to be. There's no room. That's literally called edging God out. Ego.
Yes. Edging God out. Ego.
What we do. In chronic pain, we try and control it, and it's a fool's errand because we can't. Not by doing that. We can do that by saying, fine, this is my experience. I'm not going to fight with it anymore. And you see how fast your pain goes down when you do that.
Which is when you took it to be a neutral presence and defanged it.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Which took its power away.
That's right. Yeah, I'm not leaking power to it anymore.
Right. Which I guess leads me time to kind of to how I wanted to close is with why your story means so much to me, because it's kind of a metaphor for every life is a story and the transformational journey of Stay Home and Come With Me. Because you said the holding on to our stuff is a real problem. The pain is a result, the effect we feel from holding on to things and in holding on to them. And then you talked about the neutralizing of it, not giving them any power, how that defanged them. And I believe that's a statement that is a metaphor for how our journeys are, not just with chronic pain, but in life. And that's why I believe we need to share our stories. And whether we want to have any particular belief system attached to it or not, what belief system it is, that doesn't matter. And I don't care what somebody's belief system is. We can say universe, we can say higher power, we can say God. That part doesn't matter. But in the sharing of how we have defanged the things that have a hold of us, we help each other. And that is what we're all here doing, because we all have things that have got hold of us, and we all have things to defang. And we've all come up with ways to do that, that in one way or the other are a combination of the higher power, the universe, energy, the divine, God, whatever somebody wants to call it, ourselves, and the world we live in, or science, which is what you talk about, and it's what I talk about, is taking those three and finding the balance. And that's our transformational journey. That's how we write our own story. That's how we empower ourselves. And it's a constant process. We're never through with it. There are always nuances to it. And our world is constantly changing. And right now we're at a time when there are more nuances than ever. We've got new nuances to it that people are becoming more and more aware of. We're feeling. So now is a time that we really need more and more people discussing this in new and open ways. So whenever I see your story and how you approach it, I just see, as I said, the Renaissance lady of what I talk about. I read your poetry and I'm like, I can take that and apply it to everything. And I know you deal with the yoga-based trauma and the addictions and chronic pain, but I take what you do and I apply it to life.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the teachings of yoga are not about on the mat as much as they are about a lifestyle.
Right.
Right. The first, there's 10 virtues of yoga, the very first one. And they say, if you can just practice one of them as for your life, that is amazing, right? The first one is ahimsa, A-H-I-M-S-A, ahimsa. And it means non-harming or non-violent, right?
Wow.
So we try not to do harm to others. But in the chronic pain situation, we try not to harm ourselves. Right? So first arrow, so there's this story of the two arrows, right? First arrow is something happens to us in life that, is an event that it maybe throws us off center as a challenge, right? Second arrow is what we make it mean in terms of self-sabotage. Oh, I was wrong because I did this, or this happened to me because I was whatever, or I'm a bad person, or any second arrow stuff. So we don't want to do that. We want to deflect. We want to deflect that second arrow, right? Because we make it mean that we're wrong, and that's not what's happening. It's just life, right? How we interpret life is so important, right? Oh, look at that. Where's the gift? Not look at that. It's showing me what a bad person I am, which is what we do in chronic pain. I did it. So I know, sure. I know it's a thing, and I'm not the only one. So, yeah.
But there's so many things that I really hope you come back and talk about. I want you to talk about, it's all about the breath. I would love for you to talk about the 10
Oh, the virtues?
Yes, I would love Ancestral Clearing. I have a list of things I want you to talk about, actually, and Ancestral Clearing is one of them. I have that down already.
I'd be thrilled to do a live on that. I'd be thrilled. Yeah.
I would love for you to, and anything you want to. But what we need for you to do now is let everyone know how to reach you.
Thanks so much, Misha. I really appreciate the opportunity to present, have this conversation with you and talk to your.
I love talking with you.
It's a pure delight and an honor. So anybody wants to get a hold of me, you can email me at Elizabeth with a Z at Elizabeth-Kipp.com. You got to put the hyphen in between Elizabeth and Kipp. Elizabeth at Elizabeth-Kipp.com. You can jot over to my website, Elizabeth-Kipp.com. Yep.
Okay.
Oh, and I should grab my book. And you can find my
yes, I have it too.
You can find my book on Amazon, The Way Through Chronic Pain, Tools to Reclaim Your Healing Power. You can get a copy from me. You can get an autographed copy from me if you go to my website, or you can get a copy from Amazon, either paperback or digital. So
mine has been like, I've wallowed it to death.
Well, I got more over here if you want another one.
I love this book. And I showed it a lot last year over on Fibro Live. And as I said this morning, frequently said Dr. Kipp, because I believe you should be honorary Dr. Kipp.
Well, that's very sweet.
Okay, so we're on next Thursday, same time at 3:30, and we're going to talk about, it's all about the breath, because it is all about the breath for chronic pain, but it's also for raising our vibration. It's a lot more than just that. So it's an interesting conversation. It's all about the breath, mindfulness, meditation. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a great conversation.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much.
Yes. And thank you all. Yes, you too. And thank you all for joining us. And for those of you watching the replay, and I'm going to have Elizabeth on as much as she'll come on. So you all just be sure to tune in and catch her. Go to her website, sign up for her newsletter. It's a treat. I get it every week and you'll enjoy it. So we'll catch you all next time. Remember, every life is a story. You don't have to be in the middle. You don't have to be at the top of the hour. It doesn't have to be in the morning. It doesn't have to be a Monday. Anytime, you can stop right then. If you don't like what's happening, it's your life, your story. Just start writing it over. Talk to y'all later. Bye.